The name badge was white. The words on it were black. Benchwarmer. That was what my wife's mother handed me at the biggest party of the year. Then my wife laughed like it was cute. Like it was normal. Like I was supposed to smile, pin it on, and thank them for the joke. There was no chair for me at the family table. That was the first thing I noticed after the shock wore off. The room around me glittered like a dream built for rich people. The annual charity gala at Westfield Country Club was in full swing. Crystal lights shined over hundreds of guests. Women in gowns floated past like they owned the air. Men in sharp suits clinked champagne glasses and smiled fake smiles. More than 300 people filled the room. And I stood there in a rented tux with a stupid badge in my hand. "Well, Daniel," my mother-in-law said with that thin smile she used when she wanted to cut someone without leaving a mark, "aren't you going to put it on?" My wife Claire giggled. Actually giggled. Not a nervous laugh. Not a little awkward smile. A real giggle. She was 47 years old, a senior partner at Mercer Blake & Associates, and she stood there laughing while adjusting another man's bow tie. That man was Gavin Cole. The golden boy. The rich builder. The family's new favorite friend. He had somehow become very close to us over the last 6 months. Too close, though I did not fully know that yet. "Come on, honey," Claire said, still not really looking at me. "Don't be so sensitive. It's for family." Sensitive. Right. Because being mocked in front of half the city at my own wife's charity event apparently made me sensitive. I looked at the table again. 8 place settings. 7 chairs filled. No chair for me. Then I understood something ugly. My seat was not missing by mistake. It had never been there. They had planned this. Every part of it. The badge. The joke. The smile. The missing chair. The message was simple. I was not one of them. Maybe I never had been. I felt something inside me go still. Not break. Not explode. Just go cold and still. "You know what?" I said, and my voice came out calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that scares people if they are smart enough to hear it. "You're absolutely right." I slid off my wedding ring. 22 years. A whole marriage sitting in my palm. Then I placed it in the middle of the table beside a giant ice swan. All around us, voices died. The room did not go silent all at once. It happened in ripples. One table noticed. Then another. Then another. Heads turned. Smiles faded. Even the photographers near the dance floor lowered their cameras for a second before raising them again. Claire's face lost all its color. "Daniel," she whispered, "what are you doing?" I looked at her. Then at Gavin. Then at her mother, Vivian. Then at the rest of the family who suddenly did not find anything funny. "You're all playing checkers," I said. "I'm playing chess." No one moved. No one spoke. Even the music felt far away. Then camera flashes started popping. One after another. I turned and walked out. I did not rush. I did not shout. I did not make a bigger scene than I already had. I just walked across that marble floor while 320 people watched. My shoes clicked so loud they sounded like hammer blows. Behind me I heard Gavin mutter to someone low but not low enough. "Guess the old man finally knows his place." I kept walking. If he had known what I was about to do to his place, to his life, to all of their lives, he might have choked on those words. 3 days later, I sat in a police station under a light that made everyone look tired and guilty. Detective Harper slid a folder across the metal table and watched me with hard, careful eyes. "So," he said, "want to tell me about your relationship with Gavin Cole?" The room smelled like stale coffee and old anger. The walls were dull. The chair was cheap plastic. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang and kept ringing. I leaned back and smiled. "Funny," I said, "how a man's whole life can change over a bowl of cold soup." He frowned a little. "That's Detective Harper," he said. "And I'm not sure what soup has to do with Mr. Cole being found unconscious." "Unconscious," I repeated. "That's a polite word." "He was found in the parking garage of his office building yesterday morning. Security footage shows you in the area around midnight." "Security footage shows a lot of things," I said. "It shows me walking through a public garage. It shows me getting into my truck. It shows me driving away. What it does not show is me touching Gavin Cole." The detective opened the folder. Inside were photos of Gavin. A black eye. A split lip. A swollen jaw. He looked like concrete had taught him a lesson. "He says you attacked him," Harper said. "He says a lot of things. Most of them are lies." I leaned forward and folded my hands. "Did he tell you why I might have been there?" Harper said nothing. He was good. He knew how to let silence do the work. So I did the work for him. "I was returning something that belonged to him," I said. Or maybe something he borrowed from me. Harper waited. My wife, I said. Then I sat back and let my mind go to the night it all really started. 3 days before that police interview, I was still Daniel Carter. Husband. Father. Owner of Carter Construction. Nothing fancy. No giant towers. No magazine covers. My company built solid homes for regular families. Good roofs. Strong walls. Fair prices. The kind of work that lets you sleep at night. I had been married to Claire for 22 years. I was proud of her. I mean that. Proud. She had worked her way from public defender to senior partner at a major law firm. While she stayed late at the office and climbed, I held the rest together. I turned down bigger jobs that would have taken me out of town. I handled repairs at home, school stuff, family stuff, all the little things that make a life work. I thought that was love. Maybe it was. Maybe I just gave it to the wrong person. Looking back, the signs were there. The late nights that got later. The new dresses. The perfume she did not wear for me. The way she smiled at her phone and then turned the screen away. But I was busy being a good husband. Busy believing trust was stronger than suspicion. After the gala, I went home alone. Our house in Maple Heights looked the same from the outside. Nice lawn. Clean driveway. Warm lights in the windows. The kind of house that tells the world a family inside is doing just fine. Inside it felt empty. Claire was not there. I waited up for a while, sitting in the dark kitchen, still in half my tux, staring at the wall. She never came home. The next morning, I found the hotel receipt in the pocket of her coat. The Westin downtown. Room 1247. Paid for with a company card from Cole Development. I stared at that little piece of paper for a long time. It was strange. No yelling. No tears. Not yet. Just a slow, ugly click in my head. That was the moment I stopped being supportive. That was the moment I got curious. I drove to the Westin that same morning. The day manager there was a man named Lewis Grant. 15 years earlier, I had built a deck for his family. His wife got sick in the middle of the project, and when he tried to pay me late, I told him to forget it. He never forgot that. He saw my face and knew something was wrong. We sat in the hotel restaurant with coffee between us. I slid the receipt across the table. Room 1247, I said. I need the truth. Lewis looked down at it, then back at me. He lowered his voice. That room has been booked every Tuesday and Thursday for the last 3 months, he said. Same card every time. Tuesday and Thursday. Claire's late office nights. I did the math in my head and wished I hadn't. 3 months. Around 24 nights. 24 times my wife had lived another life while coming home to mine. I walked out and sat in my truck in the parking lot for almost an hour. I watched people come and go through the front doors. Business people. Tourists. Bellhops. A family with 2 little kids dragging suitcases. Life just kept moving. Mine had stopped. Then my phone buzzed. A text from a number I did not know. Ask your wife about the penthouse. That was all it said. No name. No warning. Just that one line. I read it 3 times. Then I looked up at the city skyline and thought about Gavin Cole. He lived in Pinnacle Tower, the tallest stack of glass and steel downtown. His penthouse took the whole top floor. Of course it did. Men like him never settle for one room when they can own the sky. I drove there that evening and parked 6 blocks away. I already knew a little about him by then. Old family money. New fake charm. Real estate empire. Society pages loved him. The city called him eligible. Powerful. Brilliant. Generous. No one called him what he was. I took the stairs up to the roof of an office building across the street. Years in construction had taught me how buildings breathe. Where cameras sit. Which doors stick. Which locks are lazy. From that roof, I had a clear view through Gavin's giant windows. I settled down with binoculars from my hunting gear and waited. At 7:30, the lights came on. Gavin stepped into view first. He loosened his tie and poured himself a drink from a bar that probably cost more than my truck. At 7:45, Claire walked in. She wore a red dress I had never seen before. Her hair was different too. Longer. Styled. Soft around her face in a way she had not worn it for me in years. For 1 second, I almost told myself there had to be some explanation. Then he walked to her. Then she smiled. Then they kissed. Not quickly. Not by mistake. They kissed like this had been happening for a long time. He poured her wine. She laughed at something he said, throwing her head back in a way I had not seen in years. I took pictures with my phone. Not because I needed proof anymore. I had proof. I took them because some deep part of me already knew this was going to become war, and war runs on evidence. At 8:15, Gavin left the penthouse. I watched him ride the elevator down. Then I rushed downstairs, crossed the street and got to my truck just in time to follow him. He drove like a man who had never faced real consequences. Fast, careless, arrogant. He cut off a truck, rolled through lights, then pulled into the parking garage under the Cole corporate building. I parked on the street and watched for a moment. I should have gone home. I should have called a lawyer. I should have done 100 safe, smart things. Instead I got out. The Cole building connected to the garage with a sky bridge on the 8th floor. I knew the layout from old permit records. I climbed to the roof of a nearby structure, found a service way in, and made my way through dark halls lit only by emergency lights. The rooftop door was locked. That slowed me down for about 15 seconds. I crossed into the garage and found Gavin's Mercedes in a spot marked reserved, Cole. Even his parking space had to announce his last name. I stayed behind a concrete pillar in the shadows and waited. 20 minutes later, the elevator opened. Gavin came out with his phone at his ear. He was laughing. "No, she doesn't suspect anything," he said. "The husband's a complete blue-collar nobody. She's ready to file as soon as we figure out the finances." I stepped out. "Hello, Gavin." He jumped and almost dropped his phone. "Daniel? What the hell are you doing here?" "Funny thing about being a moron," I said, walking toward him nice and slow. "People don't think you can hear." His face changed. He was younger than me. Bigger too. Taller. Jim strong. Rich kid straight teeth. Expensive watch. But there was fear in his eyes now. Real fear. He had never had to stand alone with the man he betrayed. "Look," he said, raising a hand, "I think there's been some misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding." I kept moving. He backed up once, almost without meaning to. "I know about the hotel," I said. "I know about the penthouse. I know about my wife." "Daniel, listen. You took my wife. You laughed at me in front of hundreds of people. You called me a nobody. I never." "You're right about one thing," I said. "I am blue-collar." I was close enough now to smell his cologne. He swallowed. "So what?" he snapped, trying to get his pride back. "What does that mean?" "It means I fix things that are broken." I gave him a small smile. "And you, my friend, are very broken." I never touched him. That part matters. I did not have to. Gavin swung first. It was wild and ugly, the kind of punch thrown by a man who has watched fights but never been in one. I moved half a step. That was all. His fist cut through empty air. His own momentum carried him forward. His shoe caught the low concrete barrier. Then his face hit the garage floor with a wet crack that turned my stomach. He rolled, groaning, blood pouring from his nose. I crouched beside him. He blinked up at me, stunned, hurt, humiliated. "Here's the thing about chess, Gavin," I said quietly. "The queen is the strongest piece on the board." I stood. He tried to speak. I looked down at him one last time. "But she's not the most important." Then I walked away. "The king is." Back in the police station, Detective Harper watched me like he was trying to decide if I was dangerous, crazy, or just honest in a way most people never are. "So your story," he said slowly, "is that Mr. Cole attacked you and fell." "My story," I said, "is that Mr. Cole is a clumsy man in a hard place. Concrete doesn't forgive mistakes." Harper flipped a page. "The footage shows you leaving at 12:17. He wasn't found until after 6:30. Sounds like a rough night." "He was unconscious for hours." I gave a small shrug. "Like I said, concrete." Harper closed the folder, then tapped it once with his finger. "Mr. Cole wanted to press charges." "Wanted?" He looked at me for a long second. "He called this morning. Says he changed his mind. Says the whole thing was a misunderstanding." I smiled. "Misunderstandings happen." He did not smile back. "You seem pretty calm for a man who might have been charged. Did you check his phone?" I asked. Harper frowned. "Why?" "Because if you had, you'd find texts between him and my wife. Maybe enough to explain why a husband might be angry. Maybe enough to explain why your victim suddenly doesn't want this in court." Harper's eyes narrowed just a little. "Are you threatening him?" "No," I said. "I'm reminding you that some men like darkness right up until someone opens the blinds." That sat between us for a moment. Then he stood. "You're free to go, Mr. Carter. But here's some advice. Stay away from Gavin Cole." I rose too. "Don't worry, detective. I'm done with Gavin." I reached the door, then paused. "For now." My best friend, Tommy Reed, owned a boxing gym in the old part of town where the brick was cracked, the rent was lower, and people did not bother pretending to be anything they were not. We had known each other since high school. Back when we were stupid enough to think strength alone could save you. I found him pounding a heavy bag that afternoon. He was 52 like me but built like a man who still argued with gravity and usually won. Without stopping he said, "Heard you had a fun night." News moves fast. Moves faster when Gavin Cole kisses a parking garage. That got the first real laugh out of me in days. Tommy stopped hitting the bag and turned around. "You okay?" It was a simple question. A dangerous one. Because if I answered it honestly, I might have started breaking apart right there. So I said, "No." He nodded once like that was enough. We sat in his office with 2 bottles of water and I told him everything. The gala. The badge. The hotel. The penthouse. The garage. Every ugly piece. Tommy listened without interrupting. By the end his jaw was tight. "So," he said, "what's the plan?" "I don't know yet." "Well, when you do, I'm in." I shook my head. "I'm not dragging you into this." "You're not dragging me. I'm walking." He leaned back. "And for the record, this Gavin clown kicked me out of my first gym 10 years ago. His family bought the building, threw us out, and turned it into luxury condos." I looked at him. He gave a hard little grin. "So no, I won't lose sleep helping you." I stared down at the water bottle in my hand. "It's not just him," I said. "It's Claire too. And Vivian. And the whole family." Tommy's grin got sharper. "Whole family, huh?" "Yeah. Even better." We spent the next hour talking. Not about fists. About pressure. About money. About secrets. Tommy knew people across the city. Men who had done favors. Men who heard things. Men who could point us toward cracks in walls that looked solid from the outside. "The trick," Tommy said, tapping the desk, "is not hitting their faces. That gets you jail. You hit their wallets, their names, their fake little world. That's where rich people really bleed." "I want them to feel what I felt," I said. "At the gala?" I nodded. "Small," I said. "Powerless. Trapped while everybody watched." Tommy looked at me for a long time. "Then make everybody watch them." That line stayed with me. Make everybody watch them. By the time I left his gym, we did not have a finished plan. But we had a start. And revenge, I was learning, worked a lot like building a house. You did not throw it up all at once. You laid one solid piece on top of another. 2 weeks later, I sat in Murphy's Tavern with 3 men I had once called my closest friends. Murphy's was dark wood, old beer signs, cheap wings, and the same corner booth every Friday night for 15 years. It was where working men went to breathe. Only that night I could barely breathe at all. Ryan Mercer sat across from me. Claire's cousin. Vivian's nephew. Partner at the same law firm. Beside him sat Owen Parker, the electrician I had worked with on more houses than I could count. Next to him was Victor Lynn, the accountant who handled both my company books and my personal taxes. They all stared at me like I was the one who had done something shameful. "You need to apologize," Ryan said. "Not hello. Not how are you. That. To Claire," he added. "To Gavin. To my aunt. What you did at the gala was embarrassing." "Embarrassing for who?" I asked. "For everyone. For the family." "I'm not family anymore, Ryan." Owen leaned in. "Come on, Dan. Marriage is hard. You can't blow up your whole life over one bad night." "One bad night." I laughed, but there was no joy in it. "My wife has been sleeping with Gavin Cole for 3 months. One bad night is forgetting milk at the store." Victor cleared his throat. "Maybe you should think about counseling." I turned to him slowly. "Counseling?" "Yes. Before this gets worse." "Before what gets worse? The cheating? The lying? The public joke where they called me Benchwarmer?" No one answered. So I asked the real question. "Did you know?" The table went still. I looked at each of them. "Did you know?" Ryan looked away first. "We thought things were complicated." "Complicated," I repeated. "That's a nice clean word." "It wasn't our place," Owen said. "But it is your place to tell me to apologize to the man sleeping with my wife?" "Dan." "No. Don't Dan me." Victor shifted in his seat. "Listen to me. These are powerful people. Vivian has influence everywhere. Gavin's family owns half of downtown. You can't start a war with people like that and expect to win." I held his eyes. "Watch me." Ryan leaned back with that little smile rich men use when they think they are explaining life to a child. "You know what your problem is?" he said. "You've always been a small-time guy trying to stand in a room built for bigger people. Claire outgrew you years ago. Maybe it's time you accept that." Something in me settled right then. It was not anger. It was understanding. These men were not my friends. Maybe they never had been. They belonged to Claire's world. Vivian's world. Gavin's world. I was just the useful husband they tolerated because I played my part well. I stood and dropped a 20 on the table. "You're right, Ryan," I said. "I am small-time." He smirked. "But you know what small-time guys are good at?" No one spoke. "We're very good at holding grudges." Then I walked out. Behind me I heard Ryan say, "He'll come around. He doesn't have a choice." He was wrong. I had choices. More than they realized. The next morning I drove to Mercer Blake and Associates. Blast. Steel. Clean lines. Everything about the building said power. I did not go through the front. I went around back to the service entrance, where delivery men and maintenance workers came and went. I had learned long ago that if you wore boots, carried a clipboard and looked annoyed, people saw exactly what they expected to see. The maintenance supervisor was a man named Rafael Ortiz. I had worked with him on 3 projects over the years. A while back I had helped his brother land steady work with one of my crews. We sat in the break room near the loading dock with burnt coffee in paper cups. "I need in after hours," I said. He studied my face. "This about your wife?" "Yeah." He leaned back and sighed through his nose. "She really leave you for coal?" "Looks that way." For a moment he said nothing. Then he reached into his pocket and slid a key card across the table. "Camera loops every 4 hours," he said. "Between 2 and 3 in the morning, the system replays old footage." I did not touch the card right away. He looked me dead in the eye. "You never got this from me." "You were never here," I said. That night, I let myself into the building and took the elevator to Claire's office on the 15th floor. Her door was locked. That lasted about 10 seconds. Her computer needed a password. That lasted maybe 20. 22 years of marriage teaches you a person's habits, even when it turns out you never really knew their heart. Our anniversary. Wrong. Our daughter's birthday. Wrong. The dog's old name with a number. Right. Her inbox opened. And just like that, her private world spilled out in front of me. The emails between her and Gavin were bad enough. Flirting. Hotel plans. Little cruel jokes about me. Messages about how long they had to keep up appearances. But the worst part was business. Claire had been feeding Gavin inside information about clients and cases. Which properties might get tied up in lawsuits. Which companies were in trouble. Which developments faced zoning fights. Which people were desperate enough to sell. It was not a smoking gun in the strict legal sense. But it was rotten. Unethical. Ugly. The kind of thing that could ruin a lawyer if the right people saw it. I copied everything onto a flash drive. Emails. Schedules. Documents. Then I locked up and left the same way I came in. When I met Tommy the next night, he was not alone. A woman sat across from him in his office, laptop open, dark hair tied back, eyes sharp as broken glass. "This is Elena Cruz," Tommy said. "Freelance journalist. Been digging into coal business dirt for 2 years. Elena gave me a small nod. "And now," she said, "I think you may have just handed me the missing piece." I passed her the drive. She started reading. Her face changed as she moved through file after file. "This is good," she said finally. "Very good. Your wife was basically acting as an inside source. Gavin would know who was weak, who was scared, which properties were about to become valuable, which legal fights could be used for profit. Is it enough?" "It's enough to hurt them," she said. "Maybe enough to start official investigations. But if you want to really bury them, we need something more." "What?" She looked up. "We need them to say it themselves." Tommy grinned. I frowned. Elena leaned forward. "We set a trap," she said. "A safe one. Make them think they're in control. Make your wife believe you're ready to talk divorce. If she talks freely, if she confirms the affair, the timeline, the business angle, then it all becomes much harder to deny. And how do we get that on record?" She smiled a little. "I handle that part." 3 days later, I called Claire and asked to meet for coffee. She agreed too fast. She probably thought I was finally ready to stop fighting and discuss terms. Maybe she thought she had won already. We met at a quiet cafe downtown where lawyers like to pretend their conversations were private. I chose it because Elena had already scoped the place out. She sat across the room with headphones on and a laptop open, looking like any other woman working on deadlines. Hidden in her bag was a recording setup Tommy had found through friends who did not ask many questions. Claire arrived 5 minutes late. Perfect coat. Perfect makeup. Perfect control. She sat down and looked me over. "You look terrible," she said. "Thanks." "You do. You look great." She did. That somehow made things easier. I took a breath. "I want to talk about the divorce." "Good," she said at once. "It's time we handled this like adults." I agree. But I need to understand something first. Her eyes narrowed just a little. What? How long has it been going on with Gavin? She exhaled and looked toward the window. Daniel, I really don't think that matters. It matters to me. She stayed quiet. I waited. Finally she said, 6 months. The number hit harder than I expected. 6. Yes. Since when? Since the family reunion last spring. I nodded slowly like I was just trying to process it. And you've been helping him with business. Her whole body stiffened. What are you talking about? The Westfield development issue. The Patterson Industries lawsuit. The Mercer Trust restructuring. Now her face changed. That cold, empty fear people get when they realize the other person knows more than expected. I don't know what you think you know, she said. I know about the hotel, I said. I know about the penthouse. I know about the plants. I know you've been setting up this divorce for months. For a moment she looked almost tired. Then the softness vanished. You were never supposed to find out like this, she said. I stared at her. How was I supposed to find out? We were going to tell you after the election. What election? Gavin is running for city council next year. I actually blinked. You were waiting to divorce me until after his campaign? It would have been cleaner. Cleaner. She said it like we were discussing paperwork. Like our marriage was a stain on a shirt. I leaned back and just looked at her. This woman had slept beside me for 22 years. She knew my habits, my fears, my favorite food, the songs I played when I drove too long. And I had no idea who she really was. Cleaner, I repeated. Daniel, you have to understand. No, I said. I understand perfectly. My voice was quiet, but it made her stop. I understand that you lied to me. I understand that you cheated on me. I understand that you sold out clients for a man who sees you as part of a campaign strategy. That is not fair. It's exactly fair. She glanced around the cafe like she suddenly felt exposed. I leaned in one last time. Tomorrow, I said, everyone else will understand it too. Then I stood and walked out. I did not look back. But as I reached the door, I heard her pulling out her phone. Gavin, she said. We have a problem. The story hit on a Tuesday morning. Elena did not waste time. She built it carefully. The emails from Claire's office. The hotel records. The timeline. The recorded conversation from the cafe. The way the affair tied directly into business decisions and legal ethics. The headline in the City Tribune was clean and brutal. Attorney accused of sharing client secrets with developer boyfriend. By noon, local news stations had picked it up. By evening, it was everywhere. Clips on social media. Radio talk shows. Panel discussions. People who had never heard my name before were suddenly saying it out loud. I watched the coverage from Tommy's gym. A bunch of guys from the neighborhood stood around the TV, arms crossed, shaking their heads. One of them let out a low whistle. Man, he said, she really did you dirty? Yeah, I said. She did. My phone rang all day. Reporters. Strangers. People who suddenly remembered they knew me. I ignored almost all of them. Then my daughter called. Lily was in college 3 states away. Smart. Strong. Too observant for her own good. Dad. Her voice was shaky. I'm here, sweetheart. I just saw the news. Yeah. Mom has been calling me all morning. She says you set her up. I closed my eyes for a second. What do you think? Silence. Then she said very quietly, I think she's been lying to all of us for a long time. That nearly broke me more than the affair. Not because it hurt. Because it was true. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be sorry. I mean it. I'm sorry you had to find out like this. I looked up at the TV. Claire's face was on the screen beside Gavin's. No, I said. I'm glad someone finally told the truth. After I hung up, Tommy handed me a beer and sat down beside me. So, he said, what now? Now we wait. For what? For them to panic. They did not disappoint. The next morning, Ryan was waiting in the parking lot outside my office. He was not alone. Owen and Victor stood with him. So did 2 men in expensive suits I had never seen before. Lawyers. The kind whose shoes cost more than some people's rent. We need to talk, Ryan said. I'm listening. Not here. We ended up in a conference room at Mercer Blake and Associates. Same firm. Same building. Only now the place felt different. Nervous. The silver-haired lawyer did most of the talking. He had dead eyes and a voice that sounded polished from years of billing people by the hour. Mr. Carter, he said, my clients are prepared to offer you a generous settlement in exchange for a public retraction. How generous? $2 million. I let out a soft whistle. That is generous. It is. All I have to do is what? Sign a statement saying you were mistaken about the affair and the so-called business misconduct. Say you were emotional, confused, acting out of pain. I looked at Ryan, then Owen, then Victor. None of them could hold my eyes for long. And if I say no? The lawyer folded his hands. Then we sue you. Defamation. Theft of confidential material. Invasion of privacy. We come after your home, your company, your savings. Everything. I sat back. It was almost funny. The people who called me small time were trying to buy me and threaten me in the same breath. Can I think about it for a few minutes? I asked. Of course. I stepped out into the hall and called Tommy. They offered $2 million, I said. He let out a low breath. That's a lot of money? Yeah. You taking it? What do you think? He was quiet for one beat. I think some things cost more than money. That was all I needed. I went back into the room. The lawyer looked up. Well? I have a counteroffer, I said. They all leaned forward. Go to hell. The war that followed was fast and ugly. They sued me. They sent private investigators sniffing around my business. Suppliers got pressured. Clients got nervous. Within a week, I lost 3 major contracts and 2 subcontractors. They wanted me scared. They wanted me broke. They wanted me crawling back to that conference room with a pen in my hand. But I had been in business 20 years. Storms did not scare me. Not rainstorms. Not money storms. Not family storms. And I had something they still did not understand. I had allies. Elena's story cracked something open. More people started talking. Former employees. Small business owners. A city worker who had seen zoning favors happen. A woman who said a coal development forced her family out through lies and pressure. People had stories. They had just been waiting for someone to listen. Soon a grand jury was formed to investigate the real estate deals. The state bar opened an ethics investigation into Claire. Gavin's city council dream died before it was even alive. And still I was not done. Professional damage was one thing. I wanted something more personal. I wanted them to feel that cold burn I felt while holding that Benchwarmer badge. I wanted them exposed in front of the exact world they cared about most. Then the perfect chance arrived. The Mercer family's annual summer party. Same estate in Maple Heights. Same grand house. Same lawn trimmed so neat it looked fake. That was where I had met Claire 25 years earlier, when we were young and stupid enough to think love alone could beat class, money, ego, and rot. The party was meant to show strength. 200 guests. Judges. Politicians. Business owners. Society reporters. A message to the city. We are still standing. I was not invited. Of course not. But Tommy knew a guy who knew a guy in the catering company. That was enough. At 8:30 that night, Vivian Mercer stood in the ballroom giving her yearly speech about family values, service, and honor. I watched from across the street through a gap in the hedges. Then the lights went out. Just for 30 seconds. Long enough. When they came back on, every screen in that house lit up. Televisions in the ballroom. Screens in the side rooms. Monitors near the bar. All of them showed the same thing. Text messages between Claire and Gavin. The nasty ones. The laughing ones. The ones where they joked about how stupid I was. The ones where they talked about the divorce, about my money, about what they could take and when. Then came the emails. The records. The timing of the inside information. Messages between Gavin and city officials about zoning changes. And then the final knife. A recorded phone call. Vivian's voice. Come. Cold. Talking about bribing a judge. The house exploded into motion. Guests stood so fast chairs tipped over. People shouted. Some grabbed phones. Some ran for exits. Some just stared at the screens like they could not believe what they were seeing. From where I stood, I could not hear every word. I did not need to. The panic was loud enough. Cars started pulling away within minutes. Then the news vans arrived. Someone had tipped them off that a major story was breaking at the Mercer estate. Maybe that someone was not hard to guess. By midnight, clips from the house were everywhere online. By morning, it was bigger than a local scandal. It was the kind of story that keeps growing every time someone tries to bury it. I went home to my empty house and poured a drink. On TV, anchors talked about corruption, legal ethics, political damage, and possible charges. My phone rang. Claire. I let it ring once more before answering. You destroyed us, she said. Her voice sounded hollow. Tired. Like something inside her had caved in. No, I said. You destroyed yourselves. I just made sure people could see it. She sucked in a shaky breath. The bar is going to disbar me. Gavin's company is under federal investigation. His family cut him off. We've lost everything. Good. There was a silence after that word. A real silence. Then she whispered, "How can you say that?" I laughed once, but it hurt coming out. How can I say that? Claire, you stood there while your mother handed me a badge that said Benchwarmer. You laughed while there was no chair for me at the table. You planned to divorce me around your boyfriend's election schedule. We were married for 22 years, she said, and now she was crying. Does that mean nothing to you? I stared at the dark window across from me. Rain had just started tapping against it. It meant everything to me, I said. And that was the truth. That was why it hurt so much. That was why none of this was easy, no matter how calm I sounded. What do you want from me? She asked. From us? What will make you stop? I thought about that. Really thought about it. Then I answered. I want you to remember this feeling. She said nothing. I want you to remember what it feels like when someone you trusted destroys your life. I want you to remember what it feels like to be humiliated in front of everyone you know. Daniel? No. I want you to remember that you did this to yourself. Then I hung up. Outside the rain got harder. Inside for the first time in months I felt still. Not happy. Not proud. Just at peace. 3 months later, the dust had settled enough for the damage to show clearly. Claire was disbarred. She had moved to another state and was working as a paralegal for a tiny firm that did not ask too many questions. Gavin Cole was facing federal fraud and corruption charges. His company was falling apart. His empire was gone. He had moved back in with his parents, which felt almost too perfect. Vivian Mercer had stepped down from the law firm she helped build and was dealing with legal trouble of her own. Ryan, Owen, and Victor all tried to reach out. Phone calls. Messages. Even a letter from Victor saying maybe we had all handled things badly. I never answered. Some bridges do not just burn. Some deserve to.